Hi, creative friends. Denise from Salvaged Inspirations, and welcome back to my channel. Today is all about staining over stain. It's actually quite easy to stain over an existing stain if you don't like the original color, but there's a few things you have to keep in mind. So today I'm sharing 12 tips to help you achieve a perfect stained finish for your furniture and or stained wood projects. Just let me get set up and I'll be right back. Let's start. Here's the fun part. Do you have an existing piece of stained furniture that you'd love to restain, but you don't want to strip off the old finish? Or maybe you stained a piece of furniture and thought you picked the perfect stain, color, and shade, but then realized it really wasn't what you wanted. I've had both scenarios happen, and I've learned that restaining furniture isn't much different than dyeing my hair. And I know that sounds funny, but I've been blonde, strawberry blonde, streak blonde, redhead, black, brunette. So believe me, I know what I'm talking about. And like any good hairstylist will tell you, you can apply a dark hair color over a light color, but not light over a dark. To go from a dark shade to a lighter shade, you must strip and remove the dark shade first. And when it comes to furniture and wood, staining over stain works exactly the same way. And today I'm sharing 12 tips for staining over an existing stain. So here are a few things to know before restaining wood. The condition of the original stain or the original project you're working on, just like painting wood, the original condition of the base and original stain will affect how your new stain looks. So if there's any water damage, cracking, peeling, or worn away colored spots, stripping it and starting from scratch is highly recommended. For example, the table in the picture below is not a good candidate for staining over the existing stain. I ended up having to use a scraper to scrape off the existing finish and then restain it from scratch. And you can see that's because the finish is in really poor condition. If I was to stain over this table, or if I had stained over this table, it would have turned out blotchy and just not attractive at all. Tip number 2 is the stain compatibility. The new stain you're applying over the old stain should be compatible. For instance, if it's an oil-based stain, apply another oil-based stain. If it's a water-based stain, apply another water-based stain. Incompatible stains can lead to poor adhesion or blotchy and an uneven finish. And if you're unsure how to test if an existing stain is oil or water-based, I will leave a link down below in the description box for a fabulous article, so you can go check that out. Tip number 3 is prep, and a total stripping of the finish is not required, but even so, a little prep is needed for a professional finish. And again, we're talking about a piece of furniture that's in pretty darn good shape, right? A good cleaning to remove any oils, dirt, or dust is a must. I like using my handy White Lightning mixed with a little water in a spray bottle, which is a TSP substitute. And after I've cleaned it all really, really well, I do a light scuff sanding to rough up the existing finish that will allow a new stain to adhere better. Tip number 4 is super important. If you have a vision of what you want this stain to look like, test first. So tip number 4 is always test. I always test in an inconspicuous area before applying my stain over an existing stain. This lets me see the new color and shade the stain will create, because keep in mind, it will not be the exact shade or color that's depicted on the can, because you'll see some of the old stain finish coming through. A perfect example of this is the 2 road rescue tables I did many years ago, and I was trying to turn them into country charms, so I chose pecan minwax for the tops. Once I applied it, I decided I wanted the tops much darker. I really didn't like what this stain looked like at all. Of course, I didn't want to strip it all off and sand the wood all over again, so I just applied dark walnut minwax stain right over the pecan wood stain. Now, it worked beautifully, but of course, the tables didn't look exactly like the dark walnut minwax stain because they were over the pecan. So again, doing a test area to make sure that you like the finished product before you go ahead and restain a whole piece is greatly advised. So I've learned a lot over the years from restaining wood, and tip number 5 is something I've pretty much already mentioned at the beginning of this video: dark stain over light stain. Staining over stain is very easy and works beautifully if you're applying a dark stain over a light stain on the wood. Remember, it's the same principle as dyeing your hair, ladies. Actually, I shouldn't just say ladies, because many people are dyeing their hair. This rule applies to oil-based stains, water-based stains, and gel stains. Tip number 6 is mixing stains. So yes, you can mix 2 or more stains together to make a DIY custom stain color and shade. And I've done this many times. So as long as you're mixing the same type of stains, example again, water-based with water-based or oil-based with oil-based, gel stain with gel stain, you do not want to cross mix them, but you can definitely create a custom color. And it's super fun to do. Tip number 7 I'd like to share is be aware of the undertones. So once you become aware of stain colors and their undertones, you can mix and create gorgeous results. Warm tone stains are stains that have a yellow or red undertone, and they work great to slightly warm up a cooler tone stain. So for instance, let's say you had a gray stain tabletop that you wanted to restain, you don't like the gray, you want to give it a nice warm look. So you would pick a stain with a red or yellow undertone. This works in reverse as well. So recently I curb shopped this 2-in-1 table, which had a very red warm base. And to create a cooler, richer tone, I gel stained it with a black gel stain. Tip number 8 is know your top coats. So it's not advisable to stain over a polyurethane or any other protected finish such as wax, varnish, or shellac. Removing the top coat before staining when using a traditional stain is a must because it has no wear or nothing to absorb into. And I just want to add this caveat here, unless you're working with gel stains, which is tip number 9, which I'll get to. But I just wanted to give you an example of when I tried touching up scratches on a head and footboard by applying a matching cherry stain over the finish. It was a huge mistake. After applying it, it helped camouflage the scratches, but the end result was horrible because regardless of how many times I tried wiping it down, it felt tacky to the touch and it rubbed off on my hands and clothes. It was just a mess. So yeah, you don't want to use a traditional stain, and I'm saying traditional oil base like the watery stain over an existing top coat because it has nothing to sink into. However, tip number 9, how to restain wood with gel stains. Gel stains can be applied over an existing finish with just a light scuff sanding. And this is because gel stains are topical and they don't penetrate the wood as traditional stains do. They work more like a paint with the look of a stain, and they sit on top of an existing finish. I have a full tutorial on how to apply gel stains over an existing finish that I will add in the cards above and also in the description down below. I totally transformed my French doors using a gel stain without stripping them down. And you can see the before and after here. Tip number 9 is the application. So once I've prepped and picked my stain color and I test it to make sure I like the results, now comes the fun part. I make sure I mix the stain thoroughly. Then using either a shop towel, a foam brush, chip brush, or applicator pad, I apply a nice light even coat in the direction of the grain, working in small manageable sections. You don't want to spread the stain over the whole entire piece because then parts of it are going to start drying before you wipe it back. So just work in manageable sections, smaller sections for yourself. It makes things so much easier. Tip number 10 is wipe off the excess. Once I've applied the stain as above, I let it sit for a minute to absorb into the wood, depending on the brand's instructions, and then I wipe back the excess in the direction of the wood grain and move on to the next area. I prefer using these blue shop towels to wipe back the stain, but a clean lint-free cloth works just as well. And just a note here, be sure to read the manufacturer's instructions on application, dry time, and recoat time because they do vary from brand to brand. Tip number 11, recoat. Once the first coat is dry, it will look slightly different than when the stain was wet. So I like to take a look and see if it requires another coat to get the finish I want and like. And you can recoat, repeating steps 9 and 10 as many times as necessary to get the look that you're after because stain builds upon stain. So you'll get every additional coat you add, you'll get a darker, richer look. Tip number 12, top coat and protect. And once the project is dry and looks fabulous, I recommend top coating to protect all your work. I like to spray my top coats, but brushing them works just as well. And I just want to add safety first. Remember to work in a well-ventilated area and follow all the safety precautions mentioned by the stain manufacturers. Using appropriate protective equipment, ensuring proper disposal of used materials is super important. And I typically don't work with traditional stains anymore. I find the gel stains are so much easier to work with. And for the lighter stain projects, I prefer working with water-based stains. They're easy cleanup, no smell, and they give beautiful results. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial and it helps you with all your staining projects. If so, please give this video a like and leave a comment down below. I always love hearing from you. You can also find me on all my socials and over at salvagedinspirations.com, where I have over 500 furniture painting tutorials teaching you how to make your furniture beautiful. I hope you have a fabulous weekend and I'll see you again soon. Bye guys.